Good morning, everybody, and thank you all for coming to the Today's Restaurant News Networking Group. We are a group of vendors to the restaurant industry who are experts in our field, and we are here to help each other and here to help restaurants who may be having difficulty during these troubled times. We have hundreds of years of experience within the group, and you are free to contact us at any time at 561-620-8888 or on our website, www.trnusa.com. We have a new face here today, Chris Rodriguez with F&R Interiors. Why don't you
Hello, everybody.
Give us a quick intro of who you are and what you do.
I am Chris Rodriguez. I'm with F&R General Interiors. We are celebrating 40 years in business. My father owns the company to retire very soon, and what we do we are custom builders of restaurant banquettes and booth seating, including tabletops and custom bases. We also do some light custom FF&E millwork for the hotel and lodging industry as well. We work with procurement agents, designers, and we work everywhere all over the U.S. and abroad.
Okay.
Where are you located?
Miami, Florida.
Okay, great. So,
see, Debbie, you should have listened 30 years ago.
I think I was going 30 years ago. I've only been with Craig 20. So, did you say you also fabricate booths?
That's our main niche is
Okay.
We fabricate booths and banquettes. We don't do a lot of the standard profiles that people that you could order online type of stuff. We're more of the designer banquet niche. Any kind of banquet that's custom made. We also do basic banquets upon request. But yeah, most of our banquets, 80% of them are all custom made to meet designer specifications. And help design, we can, do it all from start to finish. I make it all turnkey. We deliver and install. We field measure. We do the whole thing turnkey.
How about bars? How about the big, the millwork with bars?
We used to for many, many, many years until just about when COVID happened, was when we realized that we have too many eggs in one basket, and there's definitely way too much competition in the millwork industry. Whereas banquets and what we do, especially in our niche, for our banquets, there's not as many, and we, the numbers just, we were able to study it because we had a lot of downtime, and it's a decision that we're looking into doing. We're doing it already this year, and so far this year has been a success for us doing the banquet seating, light FF&E furniture, like a freestanding hostess station, a waiter station, things of that nature.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions for Chris at the moment? Chris, also, you don't have to worry about writing down names and telephone numbers, etc. when we go around the room later, because I will send everybody a email spreadsheet with all of the attendees' contact information. So you'll have that for your records.
Great. Thank you. I remember you saying that. Thank you so much.
Okay. As some of you know, the FRLA had their annual summit meeting this week at the Hard Rock Casino and Hotel, and Terry and I attended, and we were happy to see Randy from Heartland and Darren from Tracy, and I don't think anybody else on the screen was there, but I saw a lot of old friends I haven't seen in a while, and we attended the luncheon in the grand ballroom, and some of the featured speakers that were addressing the group were the president of the FRLA, Carol Dover, Senator Marco Rubio, and the lieutenant governor, whose name I don't know, and Chef Robert Irvine from Restaurant Impossible. He was the featured keynote speaker on Wednesday night. They discussed a couple of things that I'm going to ask Terry to tell you all about, and we can discuss it because it's something very important for all of us to consider now as business people. This is something that we all have to consider. So Terry, go ahead and tell us.
Good morning, everyone. And I would also like, if anyone has any questions, and I would also invite Darren and Randy to put their input in as to what they got, their take was out of the complete conversations that we had. I think that we'll start, it'll be brief, but we'll start with, oh goodness. We'll start, I want to start with Chef Irvine on this one, because him going into restaurant, I don't know if has everyone seen his videos on TV where he goes in and he takes a restaurant, takes 2 days and does a complete makeover, teaches people how to actually turn their restaurant, their P&L, the way it's supposed to go from red to black. He was terrific. They lined up 3 restaurateurs that are in South Florida, and it was a Q&A for him during the luncheon, which was lovely, by the way.
Heiko was one of them, Debbie.
Yeah.
I would imagine.
Yeah.
Great.
And the whole take of it was every single question that they asked, he had an immediate and I wouldn't say comforting answer, but an honest answer. And the whole take of that session was, he said literally everything that is now will continue and will never go back to the way it was. He said, if you're expecting your restaurant business and any other business that you are involved in to go back to the way it was prior to COVID, prior to what's going on now in the world, it will not. He said, this is the best of times, basically. And what he did say, and every question that was asked was very detailed. And he said, the most part of trying to get help in a restaurant seemed to be the major focus from everyone. Keeping good help is basically impossible unless you are willing to do a lot more money per hour. And he looked at Carol and he looked at the audience with a microphone and he said, you're talking $25, $30 an hour per employee. And he stopped and everybody kind of gasped for air, of course. And restaurants, as we know, many of the independents and smaller franchise cannot afford that. He said, never mind the packages, never mind the 401k, never mind the insurance, give them the $20 an hour, $25 an hour, and let them go and get their own insurance if they want it. If they want to start a 401k, let them do that. They need the money to feed their families because things are not here. We can't get chips for computers, as Darren knows, parts for phones. They're sitting in the middle of the seas. And he said, we have not even felt the ripple effect yet. It'll be into 23 and 24, and we don't know what's going to happen even as far as 25. So it was kind of scary, yet he was very truthful. Now, Marco Rubio, basically had the same kind of things to say. He was very, very nice, and you could tell his speech was heartfelt on taking care of the families. The families need, like he was saying, there are people coming in illegally. There's a lot of restaurant owners that will tell you, yes, they are illegals, but they will do work that nobody else will do here. You can't put somebody as a gardener, as a restaurant, washing dishes for $8 an hour and they're going to do it, but you can put an illegal there and they will do it. So he was very, very honest about what's going on. And he said, when people condone that, it's one way or the other, but you better have a backup, or you're not going to be able to keep your restaurant or your business going. If you don't have the money to pay them what they're going to ask for, then, and they basically also said that employees are telling employers what they're going to do. As Howard and I found out last night with one of our members in the group that we had dinner with who came into town, we went to a local Italian restaurant. She survived through the COVID. She actually opened in November of 20. And she said, this is terrible. She said, my employees tell me they're not coming in tomorrow. It's their birthday. Well, she said, I work on my birthday. Well, I don't. I'll see you Friday. And if you want to keep that employee, you have to say, okay. Now, I remember the days when that would never have happened, nor would it happen if I owned a restaurant now. So that was right. I mean, that was the key takeaway of what is going on at this point, especially in this industry, which is huge. Darren and Randy, did you get the same feel out of that?
Yeah, I got a similar feel to what you're saying, but the other thing that I found, particularly in the certification class I took, is a small mom and pop can't run a restaurant in today's world. I mean, with all the requirements that they have, the IT staff or outsourcing that they need to pay for to keep their stuff secure, it's gotten to the point where it's either you're just ignoring all that and just, running by the seat of your pants, or you're running a real chain, in which case at that point in time, you almost have to have a larger buying group to be able to do what you need to do. You have to outsource and have packages put together for all the locations. And the other big thing that we heard a lot about is worker flexibility, like workers wanting to, not like you hinted on it, they want to set their own schedule, but then having a way for like them to post, say, hey, I need to take this day off, and having other workers being able to go in and pick up that shift, so things like that is becoming a popular trend. So even more so than the money is the flexible schedule is what I think a lot of people are looking for.
Right. And there may not be that many employees in a small place. So the mom and pops are being phased out, and they are being, as they call it, it's the Bank of Americas, and it's the bigger companies that are going to be the survivors. You're not going to have the small mom and pops, and it's very sad because the local
best food.
No, the small mom and pop can't exist because they started out with their family being the employees. And now the family is getting older, and they don't want to either work for the family or they want to open up their own restaurants. And they have the problem of labor.
Right.
Randy and I went to a restaurant. It's run by a family. That family runs the restaurant. If they have to go out and get employees, he's got to increase the prices, or he's going to have a problem.
Well, they do increase the prices, and that happened last night as well. We looked at the menu, and we had the owner come over who we know, and she said, I had to, we have to do this. There's no other way. Otherwise, I have no employees.
Well, your product is increasing, and now your labor is increasing at the same time.
Exactly. And they said that we have not even felt the ripple effects of what is going on. It'll start, Randy, right? In 24, 23, 24 is going to be way worse than this, especially with the food shortages and what's going on as far as being able to get product. The drought basically touched on the drought, but very little. Worldwide drought of the wheat fields and not being able to harvest and get what they need. So
the supply and demand is going to be a largest issue moving forward. It was great seeing everybody. Darren, great seeing you. The Duke, got to see Mark, but I'll tell you, Wednesday and Thursday, I was slammed with small and mid-size mom and pop saying, how can you help? I can't afford to pay 50, 60,000 for an HR director. I need an employee handbook. You're talking 8, 9 employees, but I don't know who said it because I couldn't get in a lot of these trainings, that the employees are telling the employers what to do. And
Yeah.
across the board, that's a huge issue. And they're like,
It's
how
a
can you help?
That's very similar
I
to,
did-
to that restaurant that Terry and I went to a couple of weeks ago, and the owner was standing there cutting lemon because probably somebody
Yeah.
told him, "I'm not doing. It's not my job."
But
So he
but
had to-
It's interesting that
the
the
story-
employees have gotten the leverage over their employers. It's interesting to see that. And also, Terry, your point about the boutique or the family-run restaurants, it's happening in other industries, banking, hardware,
I know.
medical, and it's a shame. The family-run restaurants that have been in a community, a staple of the community for decades, century, they can't sustain the supply chain shortages and labor costs.
No.
The chains do. The brand name, they're more immune to such disruptions.
And the
Well,
AI services, there were AI robots all over the place running around, and they did their program. They've got the sensors, they don't hit anyone. And they showed the service trays with like artificial food inside. Well, that AI intelligent is also going to eliminate a lot of jobs because you don't have to pay for anything. It's going to bring it to your table. It's going to, you've got the thing now where you go in and you can order on an order screen and you pick up your food. So that's already eliminated a lot of jobs.
I met with
How are they gonna
one of
tip
the
them?
owners of one of those companies that was making the robotics, and we discussed that. And I told him, I said, the robot is built to look like a little kid delivering the food, and that aspect of it is, even though probably the robotics could be expensive up front, but the fact that restaurants are putting robots in are going to drive people in because of the novelty of it initially.
Yeah.
Kids that want to come see it, people want to see food being delivered by robots, and of course it'll lower and eliminate labor costs.
Yeah, I talked to that guy too. You know what's weird? That's too freaky for me, that whole thing. I still want to talk to a person, but they're using them as bussers, right?
Yeah,
the
exactly.
person doing
And
the
delivery.
ordering is still behind them. Yep. Yeah.
Ordering, bussers, the whole thing. They have one for dishwashing. Also, they've invented a dishwasher robot. Mhm.
But what was really interesting, the one I did sit in on, who did the presentation, it was about the hospitality industry from a whole, and a commission only basis. So getting rid of tips, getting rid of the minimum wage for restaurants, and going full commission. That was pretty interesting. And then that alleviates the benefits. So now the employee is paying for their benefits. It was an interesting take, and we might see that somewhere down the road, maybe 5-6 years, or somebody trying to start it.
Yeah, Randy, seeing that in our industry, because there's a lot of people that want to do that. They want to go the commission only model. And the problem you're running into is the newer generation doesn't want to be paid that way. They want guaranteed salary. They want job flexibility.
Yep.
They want to be able to come and go as they want and make, unreasonable levels of income for the amount of work they're willing to do. And it's just, that's almost impossible to find good people that are willing to do that, because if they're going on commission only, they're not going to make enough commission selling food in a restaurant. They'll be going out and selling $1 million contracts elsewhere and getting their $40,000 to $50,000 a deal
That's
commission.
if they can get those
Dr. Rob.
jobs. They can't get those
I
jobs
just
because
wanted to
they aren't
comment,
available.
I'm sorry, I didn't go to the thing last week because my wife's not well. But I just wanted to, first of all, Darren, I want to thank you very much. That referral you gave me was really great. And the group was absolutely fantastic. Terry, you raise a real complex situation here. There's a lot of variables that are taking place in, a whole restaurant industry, from not getting workers. Like I said, a new kosher pizza place opened up, and the owner he has a pizza guy, and unfortunately the guy didn't show up because he's not getting paid enough and everything like that. I don't know, there needs to be some more creative incentive, something creative in marketing to get people in there, for one thing. I'm going to say another thing too, and I'm going to put my foot in my mouth, but I can't help it. But I tell you, if you hire people who have disabilities, especially, the government will give a lot of these restaurants literally thousands of dollars just for an employee, especially if somebody's a vet or whatever.
Yes.
You know, and I don't know, you know, it's a very complex thing, but I think we have to be open to new solutions and such.
Well, you're right about that. And I do have a friend that I know that she places people with disabilities in jobs. So
Right.
if anybody needed somebody like that, I could connect them to her.
And the good news is, you know, they can't earn a certain amount. They'd love to be earn a lot of more money, but they can't because, you know, that they're on Social Security with benefits. If they earn a certain amount, like over $1,300 a month, it's substantial income. But they're hard workers. I mean, look at Biddy and Bo's. It is a coffee shop that
Oh,
opened
I know. Betty and Bo's
Charleston.
now they're opening new places all over the place.
I know. I
They've-
think there's one in
yeah.
Fort Lauderdale coming.
Yeah,
So, you know,
yeah.
So I think to some degree that we need to come up with stronger strategies to a lot of the restaurants to bring people in. There's a lot of things that can be done. I can't mention them here because we don't have a lot of time, but I could send you some information about.
Well, there is. The problem is that the new way of thinking, kids have been brought up that they don't have to work. Their parents have just like skated them through life, many of them, and they're just not going to do the hard work. They're very computer literate. They're going to go into, you know, like Darren said, they're going to go into, I'm sorry, they're going to go into a job where they can sit at a desk and make, you know, a couple $100,000 a year moving around stocks or moving around, you know, they're not going to do those jobs. So you're right. The people that are the disabled people work so hard, and even the illegals, they work so hard. There's nobody else going to take the jobs that they're willing to do.
Several years ago,
My son works at Goodwill. He's been there 7 years. He gets $10 an hour, works so hard, voraciously, and they don't pay them enough because of Social Security. That's one problem. The other reason is because, you know, there are other budget or whatever it is. But in the restaurant business, they're hiring people like crazy. There's about 100 or so restaurants around the country that are starting to hire people with disabilities.
Yeah, I think
several
Marco
years ago,
Rubio.
They're also starting to go back to what happened 30, 40 years ago. They're hiring immigrants. They're hiring
Yeah.
the people that really want the job and
Right.
will work hard.
Right.
American kids are assholes. They've all been taught that they're going to have a great life. They're going to be able to make a lot of money and they don't have to work too hard. Well, those days are over. We're in an economic slump and people are not going to pay you a lot and not do the job. Even if we pay you a lot, you got about a week to make it. If you don't make it, you're gone, unless the restaurateur absolutely needs you. He'd rather do it himself than pay for sloppy, bad service.
several years ago, prior to COVID, a study was done and they found that people were motivated, of course, by money, but they were motivated by additional, like, for example, you have an employee who does something outstanding. You send the TV to his house or her house. Give them a laptop, a notebook or something additional. Give them certificates to a store, etc. Chris, you want to jump in on that?
Yes, I do. Because I have a very different perspective on it.
Which
And
is?
so y'all may or may not know, I have another business. I don't just do strategic supply chain, but I also have an executive consulting service that I provide. I've done a lot of work with restaurants. I've done a lot of work in other industries outside of the restaurant business. And, you know, there are some things that are not any different with this generation and previous generations. So one thing, Gallup does a study every year. It's called the Employee Engagement Survey that Gallup does. Does anybody know what the the number of people considered mildly to actively disengaged, not just restaurants, every industry globally. Anybody want to know what the number is?
Over 50%.
70% of employees are mildly to actively disengaged. That means less than 1 in 3 are engaged with their employment. Engaged means they care. Engaged means they're doing more than just showing up and doing the minimum to collect a paycheck. And you want to know what the reason is? Not money, it's not benefits. Number one reason people quit a job, this hasn't changed in 50 years. Anybody want to guess what it is?
They don't like their
Interest.
employer.
The way they're treated by their immediate supervisor.
Yep, that's
Now, let me
exactly.
tag on to that.
Absolutely.
The restaurant industry has been notorious. And by the way, I'm from the South, okay? We understand things like hospitality. No offense to some of the New Yorkers here, but let me tell you something. The New York Restaurant Association and the New York restaurant community is one of the most vicious, poorly treating of their employees group I've ever seen. I actually had somebody at the New York Restaurant Show, the Javits Center years ago, tell me, they're just restaurant people. You know they're going to steal from us. If that's your starting point, that's exactly what you're going to get. Secondly, most restaurateurs don't bother to train their people. They expect these same kids that we're calling entitled and everything else, they expect them to just show up and know things like hospitality and how to talk to people. There's one company out there, Chick-fil-A. Anybody ever heard of Chick-fil-A? And if you don't like their religious stuff, I'm sorry. I like their organizational culture. Anybody know what Chick-fil-A does for average annual unit volume, average restaurant nationally? 4.2 million in fast food. You know what their next competitor is? McDonald's. You know what their number is? 2.7 million. You know what the most astounding part of that whole equation is? Chick-fil-A does it in 6 days because they're closed on Sunday. Why do they do that? Because they treat their people right. They also hire these kids and they understand they don't get any basic skills from home or school anymore. They teach them things like how to be polite to customers.
I
Why do you
used
think you go to a
Chick-fil-A in my
Chick-fil-A?
last
Did
meeting.
you ever have a Chick-fil-A employee not say their phrases, "It's my pleasure"? You hear it all the time. Why do you think their drive-throughs have 2 and 3 lines, 20 cars deep? There's one in Covington, Louisiana. It's absurd. You can never get in the place.
None of them, none of
And
them.
but here's the deal, guys. You know, I've been in this business a long time, okay? TGI Fridays, Kevin, you can back me up. TGI Fridays, you know, when I trained for Fridays in Dallas, Texas, 40-something years ago, they had 8 Mexicans living in one apartment washing dishes. This problem is not new. It's been in this industry for 40 years. There's a handful of companies that know how to treat their people right, know how to manage them right, will take the time to train them and teach them, coach them and develop them. And the vast majority, and I hate to say it, but all these mom and pops y'all talking about, they're some of the worst. They
That's
don't
true.
understand
That's
that there's
true.
no such thing as a kid that's going to walk in and have knife skills or know how to use a scale or know how to carry a tray. Everybody wants to hire people with experience. My question for 20 years has been, well, who's going to give them the experience first? If you're not willing to start and be that person to train them and take the time, you're going to keep getting what you've been getting in this industry, not with this current generation. Because you know what? I've worked with these kids in this current generation as recently as 3 years ago. Okay. If you're looking for the ones that want the high check $100,000 a year computer job, you're fishing in the wrong place to begin with. There's plenty of kids still. You know what? The average kid in this industry is somebody who goes to college for 7 years because they don't have any clue what they want for a career or a degree, number one. Number two, most of the ones that are going to be effective in your kitchens are people that are lucky to have a GED. You have to be willing to work with them and teach.
That's
Aaron?
right. That's
I'm
right.
off my soapbox now. But
No,
Yeah,
no, you're
Chris,
absolutely right.
He's
You're
absolutely
absolutely
right.
right.
Listening to the Wall Street-
industry bash, you know, and I was one of those people. I'm a college dropout. I had no idea what I was going to do at 20 years. I worked my way into being a CEO. And the only reason that happened is because somebody in this industry put their arm around my shoulder and say, hey, kid, I think you got talent. I think you have potential. Would you like an opportunity? I'm done.
Well, it's about time you
Darren,
speak up, Chris.
hold on,
dang it.
Terry. Hold on, Terry. Darren's had his hand up for a while.
Yeah. So, Chris, I agree with pretty much with everything you're saying, and
Okay.
some of that where the blame falls on is kids these days are told they have to go to college.
Yeah.
And that is the worst thing you can tell a kid, because there are people who just are not college people, and we need to be promoting trades, et cetera. I mean, we're running low on auto mechanics. We're running low on people who know how to run a restaurant. We're running low. I mean, so we need more trade schools. There's no home ec in school. These
You know
kids
what?
don't learn
Joe
how to
Blow,
cook.
butt crack plumber can make $100,000 a year.
100% or more than that, to be honest. But the point of it is that these kids then don't come in, and that was one thing that Marco Rubio hinted on, is that they don't get training, and they come in, and kids don't want to go into the restaurant industry because of all the horror stories they hear from the ones that aren't the Chick-fil-A. Now, McDonald's actually is, I think, rated as the best training program of anybody. I don't think it's as successful as Chick-fil-A's, but the point being is that they train their kids, so they can take a kid who has no skills, as you described, and teach them skills.
And to add,
What
to
about
that,
profit sharing?
there's a mythology that, I'm sorry, the unreality restaurant TV shows, like Robert Irvine, I like his show, but there's nothing real about that. Okay.
I agree with Chris. I agree with you.
Right in the street from where I live in Madisonville, Louisiana. They worked there for 2 months, but then they distill it down to a 2-day show to create all the drama. You can't do that in 2 days.
Of course not.
2 days.
But it does help the restaurant in many
But here's
cases.
the other. So who's the English guy?
Oh,
Gordon
oh,
Gordon
Gordon
Ramsay,
Ramsay.
the one that screams and hollers at everybody.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what? There's too many restaurant shows where they glamorize these people screaming and hollering at the employees.
Right.
Who's going to want to go work in that industry if that's what media is? They're creating this mythology. This is what it's supposed to be, and that's not what it is. So anyway, I got a lot of opinions here. I just need to shut up, Kevin.
Yeah,
no, it's good that you spoke up. Now we know who you are.
All right.
I'd like to add one thing. I was listening to the Wall Street Journal briefing, and they talked about the subject of silent quitting, meaning employees stay on, they just don't work. They just cruise and basically are stealing from you because they're not working. They're just sitting there doing nothing or minimal.
Calls that malicious compliance.
Kevin.
I'm gonna kind of add a little bit to Chris's comments, because we came from a similar place in our past lives. I was reading an article last week that they're estimating 1 million hospitality employees have left the industry since 2020. Whether that number is correct or not, I'm not sure, but I'm sure it's pretty darn close. So think about it this way: 100 million people left the industry. 100 million of them, more than likely, and it's been substantiated, where you're highly skilled, multiple decade group, and they have been replaced with industry newbies, or people who have not had a lot of experience. Some of them are immigrants, some of them are first-time job seekers, some of them are what I call boomerang employees. They go from one concept or one company to another, or one industry to another. They have not found their home or industry they want to work within, and there's not been 1 million of them that have replaced the 1 million skilled employees that have left.
And
And
not trained.
yeah, so kind of almost have to go backwards in time. We're reflecting back on things that we had seen or been exposed to. The word mentorship came up today. At Fridays, because both Chris and I had that experience. One thing that they spend a lot of time talking about, and this is 25 years ago, was there's 3 things that happen to somebody who comes to work. One is they don't know. So if you don't have a good system to take away the don't know and give them the training they need, the development they need, the mentorship they need, you wind up having somebody that's in place who doesn't care. And if you don't catch that person who doesn't care and go backwards and get the don't know to be removed, that person becomes a won't do, can't do. They may still work with the company, they still may be there, but they are going to become very disenchanted with their workplace and are going to create an enormous amount of hardship and difficulty. And then really what I learned from that whole process was, what's the word on the street? Because all these employees that go off after work, where do they go? They go out to have a beer, they go out and hang out, they go to somebody's apartment. And what do they do when they go to those places? They talk about where they work a large portion of their time. And so if the word on the street is, you don't want to go to work for this restaurant because they don't treat you right, they do this, they do that, they do this, the chances of you being able to attract the right kind of person is very low.
Right.
If they even stay. Or you wind up attracting all those people that are out there hearing, this is a very dysfunctional place to work. You can get away with murder. You don't have to work real hard.
Likes attract likes.
Right?
Likes attract likes.
That's right.
Right.
Or, man, I love working in that place. They treat us great. You know, they showed an enormous amount of respect. They take the time to show us what to do. They're always courteous and respectful, so on and so forth.
You know, it's not only this industry that is experiencing this, and I'd like to ask Chris Rodriguez, who's a manufacturer, you know, what do you see from your end as far as getting people to work and keeping them?
Well, in our case, the turnaround, you know, we got the same, it's almost the same thing, but I got to the point this year where I had to give all of my employees an incentive on a profit sharing on all the orders that are coming in. Some are like at 0.5, 1.5, 1 point, things of that nature. Besides raises, that wasn't enough. The turnover issue was just incredible. And that's been something so far that's been holding off. So far, we're just hoping that it continues this way, because,
You know, I hate to say
like you
this,
said,
and Jeff Krantz will probably is going to understand what I'm going to say now. When I got out of college, I graduated with an industrial engineering degree, and I was primarily in the garment industry. And what I did was set up individual incentive plans for each sewing machine operator, or for a cutter, or for whatever. So basically, if somebody's doing a repetitive job, like cooking hamburgers or sewing a shirt, sewing a part of a shirt, there's a standard time for that operation. So if I'm there for 8 hours a day, take away the hour for lunch, take away 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes in the afternoon for a break, take away what they called fatigue and delay of bringing the material to them. So you come up with a standard time for each operation, and then you calculate how many per day the company needs, and then anything above that, the employee gets extra money. So I don't know how it is in your factory, Chris, but in sewing factories and factories that have repetitive operations, I'm gonna guess that's either prevalent now or going to come back.
Yeah, you published also. We have a secondary time clock just for each department and each portion of every project, and all the areas are given a certain time frame. Everybody has to punch in for each time frame, and then we can see, you know, where we're in the red or the black, and act accordingly with the employees, be it, you know, a positive approach, a bonus, a raise, and things of that nature, or, you know, correct the way, the method of fabrication, everything, you know, in that case. So it's similar.
Yeah,
but that's
I'm just going to say one thing, and one thing is I've never spoken to Jeremy, but when merchants come in and want to cut costs or see how efficient everybody is in a specific business, considering the restaurant business, they don't take into consideration the fact that they're training people. And these people, when they leave, and if you haven't trained them, Number one, they're going to leave. And number two, they're going to go to another place and do the exact same thing because they don't know how to do it correctly the first time. End of conversation.
If I can add to what Chris was saying about employees not getting trained and treated right, and that's why they're leaving. There are other factors, obviously, but yes, the respect has to be two-way street. And I can attest, my own daughter worked, won't mention the name, but an Italian restaurant, family run, and they did everything on the fly. They didn't have adequate training, kind of everything was haphazard, all over the place, it seemed. Then she moved to a stable, I should say, franchise, Bolé. I'm sure you've heard, like a glorified Chipotle. And she said that the processes were great. People, it was like a pleasure to work with. And she worked with other people that also felt respected and appreciated. So it's definitely, that's a big factor, the main factor, Chris, as you were saying, why people are leaving. And it is I think this trend has started before COVID, because of these things and teens, high schoolers, college kids having ADD because of this. It's harder to motivate them. They do feel entitled. And I don't know what direction things will go to in the future, but it is it's an uneasy feeling, or it's not a good feeling that restaurants, you're getting inferior customer service because of all these issues. We dropped off our daughter actually in college, and on the way down back to Florida, we stopped in a couple places, nice places, Charlotte, as an example. We stopped at a restaurant, wasn't that great. And then we stopped over, stayed the night in Savannah, and went to a fabulous restaurant, good service. So you don't know, but overall seems that customer service and that feel good factor has deteriorated. My wife made an interesting comment that in Savannah, you almost can't go wrong. There are so many very good restaurants, and I like to take a chance and not read reviews. I know I'm digressing a little bit off the topic, but it's just interesting that I kind of like to be surprised, hopefully pleasantly, when you try a new place.
John,
Looking for.
I'm sorry. I want to get the perspective of John Bunn. His company is over 100 years old, so they have seen it all. So not that John has seen it all, but I'm sure he's heard about it.
I've heard it. Yeah, I'm kind of sitting back going, how do I condense this into a short story? And there's just no way. When my grandfather, started, it was way back in 2007, just to kind of give you a little perspective. But in back to the universities and everything. When I was growing up in the 60s and early 70s, I was told your grandparents were 8th grade dropouts. And it's a lie. It's when we had the wars, school ended at 8th grade. Only if you were going to be an engineer, doctor, or lawyer did you go on. Well, because of the wars, they needed to give the people coming back from the wars a job. So they took the schools and extended it 4 years. The next World War II, they did the same thing, and they pushed them all in universities. This isn't new. This is old, like Chris is saying. This is old. And this is what's happened because they've pushed and pushed in the universities and colleges. And now they've taken it all out of the schools. When I went to school, you had auto shop, you had woodworking, you had metalworking, you had all these things that the kids could learn to figure out in life what they wanted. Now, they don't have a clue what they want. I've got a son. It's funny. Everybody's talking about college. My wife and son are on the way down to FAU now. I got to go down later this afternoon. He doesn't know what he wants. He thinks he wants to be an engineer because that's what his mindset has always been. He wants to be a builder and do things. He's worked in the office and the shop and stuff, but he truly doesn't know because they don't help guide anymore in the schools. So you've got that part of the history there. Then you take the baby boomers. Okay. You had a lot of kids coming up. Now families aren't having 4 or 5 kids, 1, maybe 2. So your employment side of things has changed along with a mindset. So it's a really difficult scenario. And this is what we're seeing. And now, like Jeremy was saying, with the phones and everything else, that's instant gratification. They don't, in a job, you don't have instant gratification like you do in the phones and the iPads and all the rest of it, these games. And that's just part of this equation. It's so difficult. And yes, it's hard to keep employees. It's hard to keep them motivated. It's, and it's not about the money, but it's about a lot of the other aspects in life and being able to help them. We spend hours each month individually talking with employees, helping them solve their problems, not just work, but even home life, because they don't know where to turn to. Everybody says there's help out there. You got all these grant monies and all this other stuff. There's so much of it. Nobody knows how to go get help, even individually. So it's really a huge issue, but nobody has one answer. And there's not one answer. There's 1,000 different answers. And
I
it's tough.
want to move this along. I want to do our intros so that the people who are watching will know who we are, and for the benefit of Chris, who's here for the first time. So I'm going to ask that we do our intros real quick, and then we can come back to this. I'll keep the board open. And I just want people who are potentially watching us on our YouTube channel, Today's Restaurant, you can see that our group is a group of experts, impassioned people in the food service industry. We have hundreds of years of experience in this industry, and we are problem solvers, and we can help you in many different ways. All you have to do is ask the question. And we'll give us a call at 561-620-8888. John Bunn, start us off quickly with the intros. We only have a couple of minutes, so let's do a quick elevator speech.
I'll do quick. We manufacture the Bunn string tying machine. We tie boxes of bakery goods, pizza boxes, printed material, newspapers, laundries, anything you can think of. We've built over 1,500 different variations in the last 115 years. So we've got a product to fill the need. Keep it all together with Bunn.
Okay, thank you. Jeremy Ben Israel.
Yes, sir. All right. Jeremy Ben Israel, Centropy Business Solutions. I help companies of all industries save money, lower their costs, and especially restaurants, the hourly employees. I can help them get flexible payment, payroll, get paid same day. So Jeremy Ben Israel here in Jupiter, Florida. Great to be here. Thanks.
Okay, so now we have the triple team here. We've got John Mulholland, Chris Rodriguez, and Kevin Anderson, all from Strategic Supply.
The three. Howard, I'm going to go because I've got another call right at 11 Central Time. So we're Strategic Supply Chain Partners. We're an outsourced purchasing department. We help our clients put together better distribution programs, manufacturer direct pricing. We also help them make their lives easier because we put programs together where all they have to do is place orders. They don't have to constantly shop around every day. We save them 10 to 18%. Every client we've worked with, we've been doing this for a couple of years now. It keeps getting better. Great referral program, Strategic Supply Chain Partners. That's it.
Thank you.
And I have to sign off, guys. Y'all have a great weekend.
Nice seeing you.
Okay,
John or Kevin, you want to add anything to that quickly?
No, but I will tell you, these guys are really picking up a lot of momentum. So the word's getting out there. People are finally trying to understand what we do.
Yeah, and I'll just add the thing that we do that's very different than other restaurant consulting companies or companies that work on distribution agreements is we are 100% contingency. We don't charge a fee. We come and do the analytics on our dime, and we share in the savings. So we don't find any money. We don't make any money. We find money, and we share that with our client.
Okay, and it's in this economic time and everything we've been discussing today. I mean, your company is a no-brainer for every restaurant to be involved with. That's my plug. Debbie Danto.
Good afternoon, Debbie Danto Builders. We've been in the area for over 40 years building. We love to design, build restaurants. We are a general contractor, so we will also take plans if the client already has them. But I think we're very passionate about helping the client from concept to completion, or other phrase would be dirt to done if we're building new construction. We also work a lot with John Marinick, and I think he's up the call, but I have to say we've worked together really well, and I wouldn't do another design build without him because he's that valuable to the equation with respect to being efficient and effective with design and cost. And I can go into a lot of stories, but we don't have time. But we also specialize, or focus on, I should say, healthcare, and industrial, and a lot of government projects, and we're very involved in the community. I do sit on the board of FRLA. That's why, for Broward County, that's why I'm always sharing information about our local activities and encourage you to come to the Reverse Trade Show. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Randy, Heartland.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Randy here with Heartland Payroll and HR. First, great seeing everybody this week's FRLA Summit. We do everything from startups to acquisitions to multi-location restaurants, and you're going to see a transition from Heartland Payroll and HR to Heartland HCM, Human Capital Management, because now the focus of this conversation has been for the past hour, it's about employee retention and maintaining that quality of employees. So you're going to see that transition happening pretty soon with the new titles and the new concept.
Interesting. Thank you. Dr. Rob, we have your perspective as a restaurant operator. Tell us who you are.
I'm mobile. That's what I am.
Okay.
Anyway, delicious spoonfuls. My wife is not here today. She's ill, but we employ people with disabilities. We do, so we're going to be actually working with ice cream carts, coffee bars, and desserts, cookies, and donuts. We will be permanently located in the new KC Publix hopefully in about a year, maybe even less. It's a kosher establishment. The KC people are taking it over. It's actually based, it's an Israeli company called Bingo, which is very, very big. And there'll be pizza there. There'll be Miss Rocky pizza. There'll be coffee and a whole bunch of other things. So we employ people with disabilities. We actually do all the training. We literally hold their hand. So they make sure they get it. And we also learn by doing as well. And I just want to say that I agree with everybody there. Darren, Jeff, John, Chris, you're right on the mark, because a lot of all the new strategies have got to change. But the whole problem is the mindset. If you're so used to doing the way you're doing in the restaurant business for so many years, it's very hard to train new owners on new techniques. So maybe it has to be done gradually or implemented gradually. But that's what I do. I know we don't have a lot of time, so that's more or less what I do.
Okay, thank you. Darren.
Good morning, everybody. Darren Gall, Tracy.net. We help businesses work their way through communication needs and issues. We help identify the right product at the right price. And we work with you from step one of sitting down, analyzing your patterns and what you need, helping you make the decision on which carrier is going to give you the best bang for the buck and the features you need. And then we stay with and also add our added support in addition to what you get from the carriers. So our motto is no gimmicks, no gotchas, just great service. Tracy.net.
Jeff.
Hi, I'm in the credit card electronic transaction business. What we do is we go out to restaurants, either it's new businesses, whether it be restaurant or retail, and we analyze what their cost factors are, because we're really not in the credit card business, we're in the overhead business, lowering the overhead and cost of running a business. They have to take credit cards, they have to do electronic transactions. We try to give them the best rates possible. We're in the business for the long run, not the short run. And we seem to have been very successful. CoCard's got main offices in Tennessee, and we have over 60 offices. We're a group of organizations that have done only one thing over the last 35 years. It's credit card processing and electronic transactions today. So that's basically it. I'm just trying to lower the cost of restaurants taking credit cards or doing business electronically over the phones. Bye.
Okay, thank you. I want to thank Terry for starting us off today. Great discussion. Tell us what you do, Terry.
I don't do anything except go to meetings like this one, which is a great meeting, good meeting today. Thank everyone for coming. I handle the leads report if anybody wants to know where anything is opening up. The company that Debbie talked about, I do have connections with them as well, and they are opening up another place. It's funny how they initialize everything. I love it. It's a good gimmick for sure. If you want a sample, let me know. I'll send you a sample of the leads report so you can take a look and see if it's something that you want. It gets the word out to everyone at one time. So you can send your email blast out. You can do a constant contact thing with the emails that are on there, whatever you'd like. But the leads report comes out about the 9th of every month in an Excel spreadsheet. Thank you.
Okay, I'm sure that people who will watch this video on YouTube, again, will see what kind of group we have, what kind of people are in the group, and what kind of knowledge that we all have. And we're all willing to share it and help. So I thank you all for coming, and have a great weekend. I'll keep the window open after I stop recording, and we'll see you next week.